You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Welcome all and welcome in. We are back. It's the Insight NFL Podcast. Week 10. That's what we're looking forward to now. That's what's coming up. Can't believe that it's already at this rate, at this stage of the year. I feel like we've been let down in so many spots. There hasn't been a lot of bright lights. But Mav, how are you feeling? Week 9, I know your Cowboys lost in prime time. You probably didn't have too many expectations going into that game though. But how are you feeling as we look forward to week 10?
5 weeks to go until playoffs start. Very close to being a month away. So, we're really just around the corner. There's a lot of leagues I'm in personally that I can see it's quite close in between the playoff spots. So the next 5 weeks will obviously define that. But it's every league that I've been in so far has been really competitive and really close. So I think that's probably a mirror image of how the league's going at the moment. There's not really anyone that's completely dominating. But there's no real teams, despite being some undefeated teams out there, there's no real teams that are really can't be beaten. As well as I've seen a bit of everything going on at the moment around the league. So no, it's good. It's good. But yeah, the Cowboys no good, mate. No good for the Cowboys. They're just an average unit. Well, I can't even call them average, to be fair. Well, average unit. But anyway, we'll get into that game a bit later on, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll get into our final game of the week, Monday Night Football recap, like you just mentioned. But Mav, I think it's a good point you're throwing in. Some leagues it's all fairly close. I'm in a couple of leagues too where the top 6 or even top 8, there's still room. But where you make those advantages is in these waiver wire, diving through, trying to get some gold out of the trash, if you will, and also through trading. And with that being said, we will have a new episode of our plays to buy low and sell high dropping in the morning. Again, you need to stay on top. There's, like Mav said, there's only 5 weeks of actual games left. You need to really be locking in, making as many moves as you can to get yourself prepped for the playoff run. That 15, 16, 17 stretch definitely should be in front of mind when looking at those ways.
Put out there, mate, in our Insight Creators League, I'm still sitting on top. Don't know if you were aware of that, mate. I'm sure you well are, but still sitting on top with a really average unit.
Yeah, well, I think your luck will change in that league. I think I was talking to Secko about that. Your points for is like the most, or points against is like the most kissed. I think it's like, your second best or something like that. So, no, mate, that luck will turn around and I'll be here smiling and ready to comment on it when it does. So thanks to
look, I've said this many times, mate. The unit in that squad isn't that good. So, and again, that's another league that's really competitive as well. I think anyone can win it. I think we're 3 and 6, 2 and 7. So everyone can still, whoever's on the bottom of the ladder, which is Deadly, believe it or not. I'm not really surprised by that. But Deadly's 2 of 7, and he's only 2 games out of the playoffs. So 5 games to go, he's still a chance to make it. So that's how competitive this stuff is. So your luck can change in a matter of 5 weeks. It's not long to go. You just got to be up and about, active, and hopefully can turn that ship around.
Very true. A whole lot can happen in 5 weeks, and hopefully not as many more injuries going through. We did cover a lot of our injuries on last night's show to start the week off. If you did miss that, our review and recovery for week 9 from Supercoach lens, link is in the video below. But in terms of injuries, we won't really go through as much in tonight's episode. We'll leave that for our last show of the week, the Thursday show. That's where we'll have a lot more updates. Hopefully have some trade news also coming through, Mav. We've got the trade deadline ends today in the States or over in the States time, so we'll get updated first thing in the morning. So looking forward to that. Any little sneaky calls now that the deadline's around of player you'd expect to get moved?
Not really.
To a team in particular.
There's not really any sort of trades in the works. I mean, Breece Hall was obviously the obvious one, and it's sort of gone to bed a little bit. But it's just defensive players that are getting moved on at this point in time. Running backs. I mean, Tony Pollard to the Chiefs was rumored a little bit as well, but I think that won't happen either. But yeah, it'd be shocked. We'll soon see. We'll know in 12 hours time, less than 12 hours time, what the all the trades have been, and hopefully get some sort of fantasy relevant trades that we can go through. But they reckon it's gonna be quite quiet on the deadline front.
Yeah, unfortunately, it sounds like we'll be let down, but high hopes until tomorrow morning. We'll get straight into our final game of Week 9 recap straight after this.
Let's preview the game for the week ahead. It's time for Game Talk.
Closing out Week 9, we were let down in the primetime game today. Cardinals heading to Dallas and winning 27-17. The points total on this week before the game in this game, highest of the week too, which was I think 54. So they're 10 points less of where they needed to be, which was a letdown. For the Cardinals, Jacoby Brissett got the start again. Still sounds like Kyler's dealing with that injury. It was a bit up in arms. Is he actually dealing with an injury? Do they just want to roll with Brissett? It does sound like, though, head coach Jonathan Gannon will roll with Kyler once he's ready to go. It's hard, though, because Brissett's look good. 261 yards, 2 touchdowns here for him. Also ran one in on the goal line, which you hate to see. In terms of rushing, and probably one to ask you, Mav, Amari DiMarcado was the number one rusher for Arizona this week. 14 for 79. Only gave you one catch for a -1 yard, but all the waivers talk last week that we had was Bam Knight was looking like that he would be slotted to the main role, had that goal line work as well, but looks like things have changed for Arizona with this one. And yeah, we're left guessing what's to come next week.
Yeah, we were. Well, DiMarcado was not meant to be even relevant coming into the game, to be fair. Gannon came out and said that Bam Knight would be the guy that comes out with the first touch, I suppose, or the first opportunity. And I suppose he did. And that ball was grounded at his feet. So there's not much you can do with that. But it's really murky, isn't it? I mean, I don't think any of these two players have any fantasy value now. I thought Bam Knight had some fantasy value going into Week 9 against the Cowboys. It was a juicy matchup against the Cowboys. Like the run D's pretty average, and yeah, it's just a very heavily green matchup really for him. But it didn't get much opportunity. Didn't really do much with the touches that he had either, and neither did DiMarcado, to be fair, either. They both did nothing. I thought anyway. No one really broke my eyes and go, this guy's the guy. There's no timetable left on Trey Benson either. We don't know how long until he's back. It could be a week or two. We're expecting it to be around the corner, but there's still no timetable for him. So until he's back, this running back room is looking pretty grim.
Yeah, it is, and one that I think we can just steer well and truly clear of. We don't need to be pulling our hands out yet, trying to think what's going to happen this week. And you're right, Trey Benson still looking to be a couple of weeks away there, but it was a bright spot for the Arizona receiving core, thanks to Jacoby Brissett. Marvin Harrison Jr., 7 for 96 and a touchdown on 10 targets. Trey McBride, 5 for 55 and also a score. Nobody else really outside of that did anything. Michael Wilson, 3 for 61. He caught a 50-yard bomb. But the receiving core, Mav, if I don't think this will continue if Kyler gets back on deck, maybe for Trey McBride, but Marvin Harrison, I think this is just a blip in the radar. It's the best matchup that he could have possibly had outside of the Bengals. I think we would have been more worried if he didn't do anything in this one. But how are you feeling about Marv, moving forward after Week 9?
Yeah, I believe they've got Seattle next week. So that's going to be a really tough matchup. Look, to be honest with you, I think that Kyle Murray is actually extremely overrated. Or I don't know if he's even rated anymore, to be fair. But Brissett's come in and looked okay, competent. He's at least been getting the pass catchers involved. I suppose this one's a green matchup, so you can't really take too much out of it. But, you know, he came out on the first drive and looked Marvin Harrison's way. If he had a one-on-one that was going Marvin Harrison's way, he noticed that straight away. No scramble in the pocket. There was no running around like a headless chook. It was just, Marv's one-on-one. Let's pass it to him. So we love that. Obviously, McBride, he's very good. And he will continue to be no matter what QB he's got. But, yeah, I'd like to know what they do at QB. Obviously, it sounds like Kyle Murray's not going to be back next week. But, you know, Gannon's come out and said that, you know, Kyle is going to be the guy. But is he? You know, what if they win next week against Seattle? Is he going to be the guy? They keep rolling with a hot hand and just going, all right, well, Brissett's doing okay. Let's keep rolling. Like, well, what do you do? I mean, it's a hard one. So, yeah, personally, I'm off Kyler, so I wouldn't mind seeing what Brissett can do. He's 36 years old, it's whatever. But just as a fantasy outlook, I think that Marv's a better option with Brissett than he will be with Kyler.
For sure. Could even be a potential sell high on Marv Harrison Jr. here after this week, and especially if Kyler does come back. We don't need him running around, not seeing Marv in wide open looks. For the Dallas side of the ball, don't really need to run through this too quickly. All the main guys all had an okay game. Javonte Williams, 15 for 83. CD Lamb, 7 for 85. Pickens, 6 for 79. And Jake Ferg, 5 for 50. Dak Prescott was probably the only real letdown in terms of fantasy lens. 250 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Added 34 with his legs as well. But overall, not really a boom game for any of these players that we would hope to have this week in fantasy. They do go on to the bye next week, so hopefully, the week after that, we'll wait and see how that all plays out. But how are you feeling about the Cowboys, Mav? Would anyone in this game really let you down? And yeah, what are your thoughts after the bye?
They sort of all did, to be fair. On that first drive, it was looking really easy. They probably should have had a touchdown, but in the end, they were 4 and out. But again, like they moved down the field really easy. First down after first down after first down, and I was thinking, wow, well, this is going to be a big game here scoring wise between both sides. We're going to see a shootout, and then they just went to bed. They didn't do anything for pretty much 2.5 quarters after that. So it was a real letdown. But pass catches as well. CD Lamb and George Pickens again. They're going okay. So look, offensively, I don't think you have to worry about the Cowboys at all. The good thing is the defense is crap and the offense is good. So we love that fantasy in both ways, might I add. Playing against them and playing, or if you have any sort of Cowboys player on a squad. So anyone of note on the Cowboys is obviously playable in any given week.
Yeah, they're a perfect fantasy team. Them and the Bengals, super high powered on the offense, and the defense is absolutely horrid. So yeah, we can hope that will continue, because I don't think they'll be trading for any other players, you'd think. But who knows? Jerry Jones, he could be feeling himself one morning.
There's been rumors about that Max Crosby coming in, but they just had Micah. So
yeah,
why would you trade some picks when you just had Micah? So it doesn't make any sense. But that won't happen. Max Crosby's not available either. I don't think the Raiders will trade him on either. So anyway.
Apparently Jerry Jones was on Sirius XM or something over in the States. He was saying they've got 2 trades locked in and 1 more yet to come that'll be released in the deadline. So we'll see if he's full of shit or not come in the morning. But I mean, who knows? He could just go all out. You just can't pick it whatsoever. That is the final game of week 9 recap. Let's jump straight into waivers, man. Waiver wire for week 10, starting off with the running back position. Again, there is 4 teams on bye before we get into this: Chiefs, Bengals, Cowboys, and the Titans. So 3 fantasy relevant teams we'll go as far as saying. But running back positions here, Mav, I know looking through this, there's a couple of names from last week that we've got here still to highlight. One that I want to start off with, and the one that just makes absolutely no sense to me, Devin Singletary for the New York Giants, 56% of the snaps in this one. We were highlighting Tyrone Tracy as a massive waiver target. Of course, following that Kemp Scatterbo injury, we saw what he did last year with that workload. He looked good. He looks explosive. But Singletary leading the snap share, 56% to Tracy's 44%. What do you make of this? And is Singletary worth looking at all? Is Tracy a drop? How are you feeling about this move after week 9?
Well, despite seeing every single league I'm in personally just drop the tank on Tracy, and again, rightfully so too. You don't get many opportunities at this. Again, he's not really the guy that is going to. Well, who knows? But I don't think he's going to be a guaranteed lock either, might I add. So, so if there's any concerns or any injuries or game script that he's not performing, then I reckon he's out and Singletary's in. So I still think Singletary, if you have space on your roster, is worth a stash. I don't think I would be moving the goalposts for him. Let's say I wouldn't be chucking on 20 fab, 15 fab, 10 fab, wasting a high priority selection if you've got that on. I would be just doing it if you've got space on your roster and it's not going to cost you much in that category. So, because again, I think he's going to be available. I think he's going to be around, and I think he's going to steal some thunder from Tracy along the way. Who knows? He could actually see some goal line opportunity as well. So yeah, I think he's worth to be rostered if you can. If it's not hurting your squad, you're not going to like drop anyone that you should be keeping. Like for example, Nick Chubb, for example, doesn't really hold a lot of value at the moment, despite him being the number one RB, or we think he's the number one RB still. So would you move on Nick Chubb for a single tree? I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I like the call. If you do have a roster spot there, only 28% rostered. He's out there everywhere. You probably don't need to spend too much. But this is the first game we're seeing post Cam Scatterbo. So again, you're right. It could trend upwards for Singletree and down, and a lot of Tyrone Tracy Jr. managers will not be too happy with that. But looking at a couple of options, Mav, that we can look to start this week. Again, it is tough. I know Tajay Spears, I'm just getting this out of the way. He's on bye, but check and see if he does get dropped after waivers run tomorrow. He could be a nice pickup. But I mean, Kenneth Gainwell, he's probably one from this week. He's got a good role in that offense. He is still behind Jalen Warren, but he's getting a lot of receiving work in this one. He's already got 27 catches on the year. And again, he does have that contingent upside if Warren does go down. We've seen what he did in week 4, 28.4 half PPR points for Gainwell when Warren did miss that game. Again, more of a speculative ad. Might be able to play him this week. They do have the Chargers, but then they've got Cincinnati and the Bears. So maybe not so much this week, the following 2 weeks after that. But how do you feel about Gainwell, Mav? And then is there anybody that you really like as a nice spot start this week that you can pick up off waivers?
Yeah, Gainwell's okay, man. As I said, he's more of your third down back at the moment. Jalen Warren's got a firm handle of the running back room. And he's doing quite well that start too, might I add. He's probably in no concern of losing it or anything like that. So you have to hope injury comes up if you do have Kenny Gainwell. Kenny Gainwell's rest of season schedule is pretty good, but week 16 and week 17 is very tough. He's got Detroit into Cleveland, so two very good run defenses there. In terms of spot starts, man, there's not really a lot on there for running backs that I really like. Keep a close eye on Isaiah Davis as well. Good thing is if Breece Hall does get traded in the morning, you'll be able to put waiver money on him or a priority on him for that night because waivers run that night. So you won't miss out on someone who wakes up early or sees that news before anyone else for the free agent acquisition. You'll be able to put a bit on him. So he's worth a stash if he's available. If your waivers run on Tuesdays or whatever the case may be, keep it close on Isaiah Davis. But outside of that, mate, there's probably not really else that I really like available. Obviously, Tootin, if he's available, has to be rostered, I reckon. I think he'll take over the backfield sooner rather than later because Etienne has been, he's been, again, going backwards very slowly. So I think eventually he might take over. And outside of that, another stash option, I reckon, would be Tank Bigsby. Just, again, a close eye on Saquon Barkley. There hasn't really been any news on Saquon through the week about his injury, but they do expect him to be playing in week 10. But keep an eye out on practice reports and everything like that throughout the week because if he does miss any time, then Tank Bigsby will take over and that'll be a nice spot start if that comes up.
Yeah, and the Eagles, they've got a great rest of season schedule too. So if Barkley does miss any time, Bigsby is that clear guy. We saw what he could do when Barkley missed the back end of week 7. I think that was up against the Giants as well, if I'm not mistaken. He had 100-odd yards on only 10 or so carries. Very solid there. Bashal Tootin is one that, I'll just jump on before we get on to wide receivers. All the injuries to their wide receivers, it looks like Parker Washington will be their number one guy for the next few weeks with Hunter on IR and also Brian Thomas Jr. looking like a high ankle sprain. So he might miss the next few weeks as well. Usually what we like to see or tend to see when receivers go down, the the running backs start to get a little bit more involved in that pass catching role, and Tootin is probably more of that pass catching chops over Etienne. We believe there. So yeah, one to watch out. But straight into wide receivers, Mav. Not a lot of running backs, but wide receivers. There's a little bit more meat on the bone. Starting off with Parker Washington again from Jacksonville Jaguars. 8 catches for 90 yards last week, and it's looking like he will be the main guy. They do have Houston in week 10. So again, if you are bringing him in, temper your expectations because that's a very tough matchup. They're top 5 against receivers in pretty much every metric so far in the year. But PTJ, high ankle sprain, like I mentioned, Hunter on IR, and also De'Ami Brown also left injured in that game too. So he's last man up. And their tight end, I believe Brenton Strange is still on IR.
Yeah.
And Hunter Long is absolutely hopeless. So it's really Parker Washington and the running backs in that one. How do you feel about the rest of the wide receivers this week? Is there anyone else that stands out as a top ad in this position?
No, Parker Washington's my number 1, and he's going to see a shitload of targets, just based off the need and anything else. As you said, plenty of injuries at the Jags, so he will. He's been he's got 10 targets week before, and 9 targets this week. So he's obviously going to be the guy. Look, I'm going to say Darius Slayton is not a bad shout. He's seeing 6 targets a game in the last sort of 3 weeks of his playing time, but again, not really doing much with it either. So, but the rest of season schedule for the Giants is looking quite good. They got Chicago next week, and the only tough matchup they've got is Green Bay and Minnesota in their remaining season schedule. So that's not too bad. But again, you can't be relying on Slayton to be taking you through. I'm going to mention Torrey Horton. Actually, he's one guy that I think if Cooper Kupp misses extended time, then Torrey Horton has to be rostered. That looks like Darnold, and despite me giving him a lot of shit in the preseason about a questionable contract, he's still proving his dad is wrong, and I'm still one of those guys. So good on Sammy Darnold for shutting us up. But Torrey Horton is looking like he's a really nice option in the offense. Target share is very low for Horton, but uses and gets the best out of his targets as well when he gets the opportunity. So that's always a positive on Torrey Horton. So let's hope. I think Cooper Kupp's pretty washed anyway, to be honest. He hasn't really done much this year. So I think they should look at maybe elevating Torrey Horton over Cooper Kupp and letting him work because he looks very good, but he touches the ball. But their rest of season schedule is tough, man. It really is. They've got 2 matchups in there in the next 7-8 weeks there. That is in the green, obviously being the Colts and the Tennessee Titans. Everything else is red or dark orange, so that's going to be tough for them. But yeah, outside of that, man, it's not much else there that I really, really like. Yeah, have you got anyone to be your head?
Well, looking at guys and going off that rest of season schedule, now that you bring it up, Christian Watson is just looking like a great ad if you didn't pick him up last week. 32% rostered owned. Of course, that devastating injury to Tucker Kraft is going to open up a lot more opportunities to Watson. He's still coming back too from that big knee injury. 56% of snaps in his season debut last week, now up to 66 this week. And I think that'll just keep trending up. His playoff schedule, Denver, very tough. So hopefully you have the bye and you can ride through that one. But Chicago and then Baltimore in week 16 and week 17 is going to be very juicy. He's also got Chicago again in week 14. Again, that's a smash spot. The Giants in a couple of weeks and also Detroit. So all in all, rest of season is looking pretty nice for Watson, and he should keep improving as he keeps, getting longer and longer off that injury. Alec Pierce, if you're looking for a play this week, he went absolutely ballistic against the Steelers. The matchup on paper with how the Steelers love to play single high coverage very high, that suits really well for Alec Pierce's skill set. Very similar to how the Falcons play. They love running single high coverage. So again, Alec Pierce, if you're looking for a spot start, 28% rostered, might cost you a little bit more after you just boomed for 6 for 115 last week. But again, if you're looking to get you through, because they do go on the bye week 11. So for this week, Alec Pierce could be a nice one. But besides that, Mav, stash options, Brennan Ayuk, he's only 52%. Doesn't look like the 49ers will be opening his window this week, so he's probably still a couple of weeks away, but they could use a whole lot of help in San Francisco. But how are you feeling about Ayuk? And then is there any other guys in this wide receiver pool?
Mate, if we're talking about guys that are just slightly over 50% ownership, I think Josh Downs over the last 3 weeks has been starting to get going a little bit. So I think he's had a touchdown in the last 3 weeks as well, every week. So despite his scores looking better, he has had touchdowns to go with it. So it's always going to inflate his scores. But he's looking like he's starting to get rolling. Did start the year off with a high ankle sprain and struggled, and looks like he's finally healthy and fit, and looks like he's now up to speed with the game, and he's looked good over the last sort of month of football. So I think he should be rostered if he's available and you need wide receiver help. And if we're talking about like a stash option, I don't mind the likes of, it pains me to say this, but Calvin Austin is a guy that just seems to be just lurking. He just seems to be lurking. Now, DK Metcalf isn't really lighting the world on fire, in my opinion. And that's a lot of with the connection with Aaron Rodgers just hasn't really been there. Again, it's not a guy that's been uber targeted that we expect him to be. Came off of 2 catches for 6 yards, DK Metcalf on the weekend against the Colts, and they won that significantly, I think, from memory. Not significantly, they won 27-20, but they were in control for the majority of the game from memory. But Calvin Austin just keeps on keeping on, really. 6 targets a game. And the rest of season schedule is not too bad either. So I think if you're really desperate or in deeper leagues and Calvin Austin's available, I think that he should be rostered because he seems like he's the wide receiver 2 there.
Love it. Nice little deep dash dive there with Calvin Austin. They've got the Chargers, Cincinnati, the Bears, Buffalo, and then Baltimore and Miami. So, yeah, they're pretty nice schedule opening up for those guys.
And Miami.
Yeah, that's smash spot. But then week 16, Detroit. House. Yeah. There. I'd be very surprised if McDaniel sees it through, but apparently he is. So that's a story for another day. Who knows what's going on there in Miami? He must be very good in the locker room. Another name that we'll just mention before we get on to tight ends, Troy Franklin. I think he has to be rostered if he isn't already. 55%. So again, a little bit over that 50% mark, but down week against Houston, like we touched on. Houston was a very tough matchup to these wideouts, but he had 10 targets in that game. And, the last 3 weeks, 10 targets, 8 targets, 10. That's the numbers that we care about for that. They've got the Raiders this week. Could be a smash matchup coming up, and then Kansas City again. So there could be a lot of passes going around. So if you're looking for a guy for this week, he could also be a good option. Tight ends, Mav, and I will just lead it off. Colston Loveland, if he's still out there, make sure to pick him up. He is a stud. What did he have? 6'4", 118 on 8 targets, 2 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns was just pure garbage, and just they shouldn't have even been there. They Bengals got an offside kick, got another touchdown within. I think they scored twice within 59 seconds or something. I heard so. Absolutely obscene. The game script was there, and also Cole Kmet left early in the game as well. So again, take that matchup with a grain of salt. It was a smash spot, but he just absolutely went through the roof in this one. And I think Cole Kmet, he could be a little sneaky outside chance of getting traded. I'd much think it's going to be him over DJ Moore if one of those guys will get moved purely based on the dead cap that DJ Moore has on his contract, which is staggering. So Colston Loveland for me, 27%. I think he will cost you an absolute mozza if you are looking to pick him up. But they do have a nice matchup for the next 3 games. The Giants, Minnesota, then also Pittsburgh against the tight ends. But Mav, what do you think about Loveland before going into your tight ends for this week?
Loveland, look, ability, I would say top 10 pick, but I've only really seen 1 week, and that was against the Bengals from memory as well. They played last week. So again, it was a 47-42 game, and Adoons had a donut in that game, and Loveland had 2 touchdowns. So generally speaking, you'd probably expect the opposite. Adoons having the 2 touchdowns and Loveland having the goose egg, but anyway, it is what it is. But look, Loveland's, as I said, uber talented. Looks like he's now becoming a bit more involved in the offense, let's say, for argument's sake. They didn't have any DeAndre Swift, but Manungai was there. So the offense is a little bit scattered at the moment with a lot of options and a lot of players there that are players they can use through different positions. But I think Loveland should be rostered. This could be his coming out party, and if it's coming out party, then you're not turning back on your head on that. So I think he should be rostered. Mate, Tucker Kraft has done his ACL, so that's a big bummer. He was, I think, the tight end 1 coming into the week. So that hurts. But Luke Musgrave is now back from the dead. He's back in the action, so he's going to be their tight end 1 for the remainder of the year. And look, I don't know if he's going to be able to absorb the workload of Tucker Kraft. He's probably more of a blocking tight end than he is a receiving tight end, but he's going to have to be involved in the passing game. They're going to try and replicate what Tucker Kraft did into Luke Musgrave. So he was the higher pick in the draft as well. They were drafted together, and Musgrave was a higher pick. So let's watch that space there. But I think he should be rostered. If you're tight end needy, and I am in one league, I've just lost Tucker Kraft. I've got no one else, so I'll be looking at guys like Musgrave available. And I'm going to mention another name too that's only rostered 29%, maybe even less than that. Is Dalton Schultz. He just keeps on going. He's uber underrated, and just keeps on getting plenty of targets and plenty of work. So I think he should be rostered as well. Because what is he at the moment? He's the tight end. He's a tight end 20. But again, the last sort of month of his games have been quite good. So we're talking 11, 18.8, 4.4, and 13.7. That's with a tight end premium tag on it. Keep in mind. But they've got the Jags coming up too. So another good matchup there for them. And then the schedule gets a little bit tougher for tight ends. But again, they've got, I personally think, outside of Nico Collins, they've got nobody. Personally, there's no second option, and I think Dalton Schultz is that second option. So I think he should be rostered, and definitely should be almost played, to be honest.
I agree, and it looks like he is slept on heavily. He's not a sexy name by any means, but tried and true. He's been well established in that offense at Houston for a few years now. I like it. A couple other names here, Mav, that I do want to throw at you quickly. Howard Fannin Jr., he is at 63% coming off the bye, but he could have been dropped last week, so I'll be making sure to check and see if he's still floating around. But Isaiah Likely, he's at 13% rostered. His first game back with Lamar Jackson under center. He did have 59% of the snaps in this one and was 3 for 60. I mean, he looked like the pure, better athletic tight end over Mark Andrews. Of course, the bar isn't too high, but I think things are really going to open up for Likely there. It is still a bit of a question mark because there is 2 tight ends, of course. But how do you see the Ravens tight end room playing out? And are you Likely over Andrews, or do you have it the other way?
I can't split them, to be honest. I really can't split them. Keep a watch on tomorrow morning. There has been some Mark Andrews rumors going around for a while. I'd be shocked if they traded him on, to be honest, but it could happen. Strange things happened before, so just keep an eye on him. And if he does get traded, then Isaiah Likely is obviously must rostered then. So, but I can't split them in, to be honest. I mean, Mark Andrews gets a lot of end zone targets as well. So if he's still in the end zone targets off Likely, then that sucks. But I don't necessarily think he should be rostered, but at the same time, just keep an eye out on that situation there. And that's in terms of tight end, there's not really a lot that I really like. I'm still dead inside that Kraft is gone for the year, so I can't get past that. Personally, I mean, AJ Barner somehow is still somewhat relevant, which is crazy. He had a rushing touchdown on the weekend. So that wasn't on my bingo card. But again, more often than not, he has a touchdown. So that's good for a tight end.
Yeah, a little tush push. I had Charbonnet in one league. I would have absolutely loved that touchdown if they did tush push it in with AJ Barner. Of course, you just can't pick it some weeks. But yeah, you're right. There isn't a lot of options this week, especially with 4 teams on bye. and all the injuries that we are copping. But again, there is still a few. Loveland, Musgrave, and Dalton Schultz. There is, definitely some options to get you through. Quarterbacks, though, Mav, again, a little bit tougher. We'll look at it from a super flex lens. Of course, Marcus Mariota, we have to talk about. He's only at 10% owned. Jaden Daniels is all but confirmed out for the rest of the year. I was hearing some reports that they're not completely shutting it down, but I mean, that injury looked pretty nasty. I'd be surprised if he comes back on that one. So Marcus Mariota and Superflex, you can definitely pick him up. I would be steering clear in one quarterback. Joe Flacco, again, 53%. He is on bye this week. So again, people could be dropping him, but he could be a top 10 quarterback for the rest of the season. They just look that good.
He's not droppable, mate. He's not droppable at all. I think he scored 20 plus in nearly every game that he's played, starting for the Bengals. So he's he can't drop him. He can't drop him. He had 30 on the weekend. This guy's 41. So, and a stacked offense. He can't drop him. He's not droppable. If we're looking at Mariota as well, I definitely agree. Keep in mind, though, the offense is pretty grim at the moment as well. The offensive line's very shaky. And they've got no McLaurin. He's obviously aggravated his injury, so I think he's out for they reckon another 3 weeks after the bye, maybe even probably further from there. There's rumours of so you miss McLaurin for 3 weeks, and you got Debo and Luke McCaffrey and Zach Ertz and Noah Brown. So it's not really a sexy offense. And I don't think Mariota is going to change much of that. To be fair, if Daniels couldn't do it, I don't think Mariota will be able to do it either. So you might be able to start him in plus matchups where you can, but I've seen too much of Mariota over the past to say that he's just a backup, and he might score you 15 to 16 points. He might have a rushing touchdown or something to inflate his score, but outside of that, I don't think he's going to really go nuts, or he's going to be the reason why you go into a playoff squad or you might win the championship or anything like that. I don't think he's the solution.
Yeah, he's gross. You really hope that he adds 50 rushing yards at least on the ground with his day to make it worth anything for fantasy. JJ McCarthy, Mav, he's at 25% owned. Thought I'd just subtly slide that one in there. 25% owned. Now, a lot. This is with Superflex and one quarterback mashed up again, so keep that in mind. But he probably is still out there in a lot of spots in Superflex rosters. How are you feeling about him? 3 total touchdowns in week 9. I believe they've got the Ravens up in week 10. I mean, there's too many good weapons around, and that system's too good, I think, for JJ McCarthy to not be out there on rosters. Yeah,
he has been. Well, he was good in that game anyway, wasn't he? He looked in control. Again, under 50%. Oh, was he under 50%? No, he wasn't. It was just over 50% passing completion, so that was good. But still, only 143 passing yards. But he made up for it on the ground with that rushing touchdown and a couple of darts or dimes to Justin Jefferson. I think Hawkinson was the other one, from memory.
Yeah, it was.
But a couple of dimes there. But again, not a lot of passing yards. So that's still a slight concern. We might need touchdowns for him to boost his score. So I don't think he's going to have, he's going to have games of 250, 300 passing yards. I don't think he's that guy personally. But, Baltimore, Chicago in the next 2 weeks. So they're nice matchups there for him. Green Bay, obviously, going to be a tough matchup. And then it really opens up after that. Seattle might be a bit tough for him. But then Washington, Dallas, Giants, Detroit in the last four weeks there. So a lot of green in the playoffs there. And, with the stacked offense and everything like that there, he could be a nice option. In the next 6 of those 8 games remaining, it could be nice. So I think if he's available, I think he should be rostered.
And in terms of one quarterback, Mav, again, it's tough to really pull some names together. But Sam Darnold, we mentioned him earlier on in the show, 62%. Looks like he could be a year-long keeper as well if you are struggling in that quarterback position. If you lost Jaden Daniels, Darnold can slot straight in. He's already had the bye. Just super solid. I think he had 20 straight completions in that game against Washington, even though their defense wasn't anything to look at. Still, he kept producing the goods. 4 touchdowns, passing as well. You love to see it. And I think even Mav, we could loop him in for our quarterback streamer this week. They do have the Cardinals at home. I think Sam Darnold, you definitely can't do much better than that.
Yep, agree. I'm just looking at one of my one QB leagues as well. Brock Purdy's on there. We're not too sure how long until he's back, but maybe this week. Who knows? He's been week to week for 6 weeks now, so they should just put time on him and just give us some sort of indication. But it's always hard with turf toe. It's always hard to monitor and get a gauge on how long you're actually out for. It's a brutal injury to have. And I've got Caleb Williams available in one of these leagues as well. He's a QB9 at the moment, I believe he is. And he played the Giants this week. So that could be a nice matchup if he's available in your one QB leagues. But again, the rest of season schedule for Caleb Williams does get very tough towards the end of the year. He's probably got one matchup, and that's next week of being easy. The rest of them, you got Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Philly, Green Bay twice, Cleveland, San Fran. So that's a tough rest of season schedule for him. But again, he seems like he's been going okay so far in the year. So I think if he's available and you need a spot start at QB, I think he's the guy personally for me.
Yeah, for this week, got a great matchup, and looping it with tight end streamers to go along with quarterbacks if you are caught in a pinch. Colson Loveland, in turn, with Caleb Williams against the Giants matchup, looking like Komet will miss this week after going out early in this one. Howard Fenner Jr., if he is out there, they've got the Jets. Could be another good one. And Mav, like you mentioned, Dalton Schultz up against the Jags. That could be a very good streaming option. Is he probably your number one out of this list?
Probably, but keep an eye out on CJ Stroud. He did leave the game with concussion. So if we do have Davis Mills, I don't like the Dalton Schultz matchup. I would play as much as I do if Stroud's starting. So just keep an eye out on that one.
Love it. That will do things here for our waiver wire show for week 10. We will be back in the morning with a nice little 20 to 30 minute buy low and sell high edition like we've done for the last few weeks. And then again, as always, our massive Wednesday trade talk show will go live tomorrow night. We share there's a whole lot to talk about, and we might forecast as well how the future looks for the remainder of the Supercoach year. So absolutely love to hear it. Week 9 is done and dusted. Week 10, Mav, here we go. We'll see you all tomorrow night.
See ya.